the 8th Circular Challenge. My name is René de Groot. I will be the moderator of this afternoon, which is a little bit special because, well, we are all keeping distance from one another. That's the first one for the Circular Challenge. And it has also been, and I would also like to ask you to indeed keep the 1.5 meter distance throughout this session. We are streamed, the whole world is watching. But it is also maybe representative of a process that has been a little bit more complicated than it has been before. Because the previous 7 circular challenges were all organized on the basis of, let's say, a pressure cooker where all the participants and all the companies could work together very closely in order to reach a solution in a short period of time. Now, the time has been a little bit prolonged, this session round, so it has taken 3 months for you to come up with a solution. However, the impediments of organizing all this through Zoom or Teams, I don't know which application you have been using, but it must have been a little bit harder than usual. So I would first like to congratulate you all on getting as far as you did. We see beautiful models over there, and the ideas will be shortly presented to you in some detail. Now, this circular challenge has been also different because rather than solving a solution for or solving the puzzle of what to do with a certain waste flow, which has been the core of what we did usually before, like a specific plastic or another kind of waste flow, how to make that into a solution, has this time around been a bit different. The companies, the organizations who have put the puzzles before you, who put the challenges before you, have been working together a little bit more in formulating a common problem for high-rise buildings here in Rotterdam. And I would like to first start to mention and also to ask the companies to highlight why they have been so in this process. And starting with a newcomer, that's BAM Construction Company. Is somebody present from BAM? Ah, very well. The microphone is at approximately 1.5 meter distance, getting there shortly. So I would like to ask you, are a newcomer, a new partner in this challenge. Why have you joined? Okay, so if the microphone can't come to you, you can certainly come to the microphone.
The Circular Challenge is, how can I pronounce it? It's part of our business, circularity. Maybe, for example, in Schiphol right now, we've started to demolish a building and reuse all the materials in another building at Amsterdam Schiphol. So it's all in us to bring that to the main business of us. We believe that within a few years, this is part of the deal.
And have you been working together with other stakeholders, other partner organizations in the challenge?
If we work together?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course we work together with all the members on a project basis. But maybe it's wise to use all our knowledge and learn from each other more than just in the projects.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Municipality of Rotterdam, the city of Rotterdam, has been represented before, has been putting in challenges in previous sessions. What's new this year?
Called Rotterdam Circulair, so that's quite obvious that we're here. The other thing is that we also have a policy on high-rise building, and that has been discussed in the municipal board last spring. So combining the policy on high-rise building and combining with the policy on circularity, all these two elements came together in this challenge. So therefore it was no discussion that we should participate, and we have a challenge on how to deal with waste and how to collect and separate the waste from the buildings.
All right, thanks. Next is Evides, or water. We have two, let's say, organizations specialized in water. What was your stake in this challenge?
That's a good question. I'm from Evides from the drinking water supply part, but we also are a partner in the industrial water supply and waste. So I think you know Evides more from that part. As a company, we do a lot in circularity with solar energy, but the supply of drinking water is conventional. Didn't change very much in 100 years, for instance. And the challenge was more or less with the high-rise buildings coming to Rotterdam, based on the policy of the municipality, as mentioned. For us, it's interesting to see what could happen when you take circularity into the supply of drinking water. Mm-hmm. So that was a challenge, and I said in the beginning already to the team, it's a difficult challenge.
I think so,
We have a very efficient system. So.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. And then we have... we could call them the water board. It sounds a bit weird in English, but in Dutch it would be the Hoogheemraadschap Schieland en Krimpenerwaard. Also dealing with water, but then in a slightly broader context, maybe.
Yeah, so the water board has two roles. Simply said, it has two roles. Of course, keeping the water out of our country, and also to treat wastewater. And in this situation, we were mostly here for the wastewater part, how to look at wastewater from high-rise. Because if you look at the wastewater system right now, it's mostly very horizontally based. And well, maybe if you look at it vertically, if you look at how wastewater comes from a high-rise building, there are more possibilities. So that was also our challenge. What is possible with wastewater coming from a high-rise building?
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. Last but not least, Woonstad. They have been involved before. What was your main challenge?
Woonstad invests a lot in circularity at the moment, and we were very curious in how to in investigating how to make a building high-rise which does not have to be demolished. So why do you demolish and how can you prevent it? I think that was mainly the question, and yeah, we were interested in that.
Well, we're going to see some interesting solutions, I have no doubt. Thank you very much. Now, just to be sure who you all are, who are the team members present here? Could you please raise your hand? All right. Now, because of the crisis, keep them up for a second. Okay, so you are not complete here because there have been foreign participants who had to go home due to the crisis. Now, all those who think it was a very easy challenge, please raise your hand. You only do that because the jury is already watching, I guess. So who thought it was very complicated? Nobody. Yes, you did. Okay, then what was so very complicated about it? Jury, cover your ears. This is not yet. It does not yet count into the final point.
I think to start, we started off the challenge virtually, so you have to work together virtually with people that you've never met before. And on top of that, you have lots of stakeholders to please.
Mm-hmm. Too many?
No.
No? All right. But enough. All right. Who thought that there was something that you thought would be very complicated or difficult and it turned out to be relatively easy? Nobody dares. Okay, did you have fun during the process? Was it any good? Okay. Did you get to know new people? Anyone would like to comment on it? You, I see you go like this.
So I think for a lot of people that participated in this challenge, a big part of doing it was just getting to meet new people and getting to network and meeting people that are already active in the field of circularity. And because of the distance, the fact that we weren't able to come together until today, that was definitely something that was a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, it did develop really interesting relationships through Zoom because you had to like make more of an effort. So on like a small scale, I developed a quite a close relationship with my team, but I didn't get to talk to so many other people, which is, so it's a little bit double.
Understandable. Anybody else? Would like to say something before I'll introduce the jury? Who would like to win? Oh, you can pick between two only, so it's going to be easy. All right, then the jury. I will introduce you. To start with, the chairperson of the jury is Simone van Tongeren. She works with what I thought would be Engie, because it's a French company, but you call it Engie, right?
Right.
Maybe a microphone up front, because I would like to ask you very shortly in general terms, because you can look at everything, but what is, if you would have to give a focus on what you are going to pay attention to in the presentations of the 5 teams that will follow shortly. Question mark, almost in time. There you are.
You have a microphone, I think.
Yes, I have, but I'm not sure.
But maybe now you can...
Well, first of all, I think, personally, I think it's important that the business case and the technology will be in business quite quickly, as circular economy is happening now and not tomorrow, but it is really important that it's really, in short notice, it will be applicable. And furthermore, team...
So how do you test if it will be on short notice a realistic thing to roll out?
Well, by asking questions like, have you researched that, for example, the business case, so have you asked around, are there companies you've asked how much something would cost or how much they would pay for something, because it's always an ask and demand kind of question.
So the business case, and it should be ready to roll out. Let's see what you all have prepared. David Hess, you with Kruivanger Architects, your partner there. What is your angle?
I think for me it's quite close. Can everyone hear me? I think you need to find the right balance between dream and realization. So if it's like too much realizable already, then you lose the inspiration. But if you just have a dream and it's not really, it doesn't look like it's going to be realized in, let's say, a few years, because that's the only way it really has effect, then it's also like off grid. So I think the right balance between, in a world that becomes more complex, it's really nice to hear stories that are simple again. So
Simple stories. Well, we see some simple and elegant presentations over there. I wonder if the presentations here on the stage will be the same. I'll go to you, Jan Jongert, with Superuse Studios, an architect. Can you tell me, what is your angle?
Yeah, we'll have 2 topics. One is okay, what spatial impact does your invention have in a building or in the high-rise? So that's, I think, very important to know. And the other is, when you're speaking about business case, it also, of course, deals with the amount of volume you're thinking to, or you're imagining to treat with your process. So I'm really curious for the volumes you're able to process.
Thank you. Wouter Veer, also our host, as it were, you're with Blue City, and one of the founders of Blue City, and you have a fund, iFund, so if you need any money, please go to Wouter. Well, what's your angle be?
Well, that's difficult to add something to these angles, but well, I'm an entrepreneur and an impact investor, so as an entrepreneur, I think I'll look at the broad spectrum of all things a good entrepreneur and idea needs. And the thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, but it's also difficult to judge today, I think, is it's better to have a good and balanced team working on a moderately good idea than having a great idea with a moderate team. Yeah, so, but I don't know if we can judge teams today, but I'll try to look into that.
Good. So the cohesion within the team as a specific angle by Wouter. Thank you very much. We'll shortly start. And I will be strict, but only about one thing, and that is time management. Each of the teams will have 5 minutes to present their case. They can do it using the screen to help them out with visuals, which have been tested and prepared. The time will be kept and will be visible over here on an iPad. So if you are presenting, you can just glance a little bit. I will not warn you when the time elapses, but if it does elapse, I will be strict and I will cut it out immediately. And then the 7 minutes that you have with interaction of the jury will immediately start from the moment that the 5 minutes have elapsed. And that is not a lot of time. So it's 12 minutes per team, and I will be strict about the time management. The question to the request to the jury is to keep your questions as short and concise as possible and ask only one question at a time so that the teams can quickly frame their answers, and also to the teams in the 7 minutes interaction with the jury to try and be as concise as you can, because then you have more questions to answer, some more of the, well, existential or entrepreneurial doubts that the jury might have, to take them away with your wonderful and well thought through answers. Is that all clear? Are there any questions about today's procedure? If not, then we will go to the first team, and that is Team Future Proof. And please come up in a relaxed way. Applause, applause. And please only start when the time is running. We have a, there we are. Oh, you can take the clicker yourself because of Oh, great. That's great. Please do keep the distance. Can we have the timer on the...
Is the microphone on? Yeah? Okay, cool.
Okay, so there's the timer coming, and it's counting. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to kick off the finals of the Circular Challenge with you today. On behalf of Team Future Proof, which is Bas, Emma, Vaishnavi, and myself, I'm here to tell you that the future of high-rise is... I have to click it myself. Tiny. This Circular Challenge had 5 themes. Ours was the challenge to create a solution so that the building becomes as future-proof as possible. For example, when use of parts of the building changes. When diving into the topic, we find 3 major issues. The first one is that building construction itself is wildly polluting. 39% of emissions, 49% of waste, and 50% of scarce research use worldwide is spent on construction. Worse so, we build for the short term. We build houses on average for 50 years and offices with a business case of 15 years. And often they're left vacant after that. In Rotterdam currently, 11% of offices and 7% of former public buildings are empty. Next to that, there's a big housing shortage of affordable housing. We find that the densifying of cities and high-rise creates feelings of loneliness and disconnectedness. And in turn, that lack of social cohesion can turn good neighborhoods into bad ones, often with demolition as a result. On a positive note, the third one is that we also saw a lot of trends towards more simple, more sustainable, and more mindful living. With, for example, the tiny house movement on the forefront of that. So let me present to you our solution, Tiny in the City. It's simple, but it's twofold. So I'm really sorry for the judges. It might not be the easiest story. It's twofold. On the one hand, we will take care of vacant buildings, the ugly ducklings, so to say, and turn those into green oases, using simple modular tiny houses and creating green communal spaces that allow for social interaction and social cohesion. On the other hand, to put these tiny houses in, there's not really, we didn't find a concept that would actually fit it, so we created one ourselves. The design is simple and foldable in order to be easily put into an existing building. and smartly uses off-grid principles to, in order not to burden the existing installations and construction of a building. It will be created from circular and bio-based materials, and we'll make sure that it's easy to take apart at the end of life stage. So when you take it out, you can actually take it apart and reuse it. So a solution like this also requires two products actually. So the first one is actually the tiny house itself, which is aimed at 1 to 2 person household home seekers, which will constitute about 70% of the households in the Netherlands in 10 years. They become more and more aware of the ecological footprint of their housing, whether they're renting or buying. Our value proposition to them is affordable circular living, using flexible prefab modules that are affordable. We know that we're not expert tiny house builders yet, so we will partner with material suppliers and with a unit builder who can help us build this in a scalable way. As we bridge the gap between the house buyers and the production, we'll get a small margin on the houses. And on the overall concept side, those clients are housing corporations and property owners. We'll help them circularly upgrade their property with low impact on the existing structure and installations and the social design. As we act as project developers, we'll charge a project development fee for that. We know that the next steps are going to be complicated and probably not going to be linear. But we mapped out a couple of stages that will help us in the end build a pilot house and a pilot building in order to scale up. I'd love to dive into the details of the technicalities, but I don't have time for that, unfortunately, in the 5 minutes. But I kindly like to thank everyone who's helped us along in this process. Everyone we've interviewed, I know a lot of them are watching the live stream, and all the companies that we're talking to and that we're trying to find build partnerships with to actually make this a reality. Thank you for your attention.
Time has elapsed. Good timing. 7 minutes are counting. Jan, can I ask you first?
Yeah.
Oh, there's the team.
In the meantime, I can ask the first question. My first question was, like the cost, you say it's around 50,000 euros per unit. Does it include the green and the installations you may want to add? And does the fact that it needs to be in high-rise have an effect on it?
Yeah, we decided to not put this in a very short presentation, but the jury up front, you got a little overview of the business case. What we're aiming for is, depending on the customer, right? We're targeting, for the overall concept, we're targeting both property developers who might want to just sell the places inside, and we're targeting social housing corporations. So then it would be rent, but depending on that client, the investment for the communal gardens and so on, that will be either something that is carried by the house owners, the ones who buy the tiny houses, if they rent the space and then buy the tiny house. They will have a kind of almost like a VVE. It's like a common investing in the communal gardens, or you could include it in some kind of rent if you were to charge that. Does that answer your question?
Partially.
Some other juror?
Yeah, maybe for me. I was wondering, you already looked at some competitors that makes a similar projects. Can you point out what a clear distinction would be between your proposal and proposals that are already there?
Well, one of the things is that we have a foldable unit that we're going to do that was easy to transport and with less disruption insert into a vacant building. That's one. And of course, we also allow personalization, customizing, because another thing that we've realized in high-rise apartments is the anonymity, and because all the designs are so monotonous, and allowing people to have a bit of personalization in their tiny homes it gives you a sense of place, a little belonging, which is very important for social cohesion and for the lifespan of a building. So that's another aspect that we would like to bring in.
And maybe to add to that, I know that your question also comes from the fact that Kruivanger has a wonderful module.
Not necessarily, but
Oh,
yeah.
we looked into that, but there are modules that are meant to be kind of like they're the standalone service that you put inside a full office space, for example. And what we try to do is actually insert an actual house. So it's the one unit, or no, the combination of units, so the one tiny house, is actually a coherent house and not something that is in an open space to create the intimacy of an actual house and a comfort odor.
I've got a question. So how it's foldable, but do you always take out the outer part of the building, or I don't know, how do you get such a a big installation into the unit, into the building?
The complete unit exists of multiple. One house consists of multiple units, and of which the width is a maximum of 2 meters.
Okay.
And so we try to fit it through a big window for.
Okay.
Like that.
Plenty of time. Other jurors?
Well, maybe it was touched upon a little bit, but it's a broad question. Exactly what problem do you solve by putting in like a tiny house into a big building, bringing all this material in? And isn't there a more simple way to solve that problem? But what problem do you solve?
Yeah, so that's twofold. On the one hand, we see that there's a lot of vacant buildings that actually are not being demolished, but are also not being used, right? It's a very sort of tough in-between zone, where actually it's not worthwhile for property developers or for the owners to actually invest in taking it down, which we want to prevent from the sustainability perspective, but also not to invest in it for making different apartments or whatever. So what we want to do is making sure that we can actually utilize that space in order to also solve the other problem, and that is the lack of affordable housing. We see that luckily there's actually a trend towards more sustainable housing, and often new fancy apartments are created that use a lot of really good materials. But that's not the case for affordable housing. It's really the fancy ones. There's a trend towards sustainability there, but not so much yet in the affordable range. So we want to make that available to the mass. Okay.
Is the building or the tiny house healthy in the sense that how do you cooperate with the installations in the office, or like how do you get the fresh air into the tiny houses?
So we did think about it. Services are definitely a problem when you're looking at like existing buildings because they're outdated or what we were thinking, one solution could be that you take an updated installation, take the air into the common space, and then have units within the different housing units that take it. Then you can just open the window, and then that's fresh air. The other one is that all the units are next to a window, so they could also have an individual one, but that's less effective. So that could be a solution to that.
Only 18 seconds left. Maybe final words?
Final words for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have some?
I'm out of No, we thank you for your attention, and we really hope we can make this a reality. Even if we don't win the finals, we're planning to continue the research and see if we can make this happen.
Cool. Thank you very much, Team Future Proof. Thank you very much. And we'll proceed with the second team, which is Team Water. I don't know, only you are present, but you will defend the team. Please wait a second for your presentation. There we are. Time is counting. Go ahead.
Hi, so we are Water 2. Well, basically, we would like to call ourselves that we are AquaHive, and just like we're going Dutch now, stormwater is our business. Well, stormwater kind of reminded me the rain last, like in the previous weeks, and I always wondered why
Please
Dutch
speak into
people
the microphone.
always. Okay, is it good?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So why Dutch people always complain about the weather? And now I know it. After seeing this so much rain, I cannot blame you guys. So let's get serious here. Climate change is real. And we are seeing that in the past 5 years, the rain are 25% more if we compare it with the past 4 decades. What about the water companies? Well, water companies are actually also facing a challenge, which means that they have some challenge with the water supply, which means they have to deal with the maintaining the peak of demands, which is pushing a lot of overload on the drinking water. Apart from that, there was a very interesting quote that I read a few days back, which kind of shifted my opinion from taking the stormwater as a problem to as an opportunity. As we have seen the energy shift, which means that from a cheap and inefficient energy, we are actually moving to more green and sustainable energy. A similar shift can also be seen with the water, where we are actually putting a lot of pressure on the resources and exploiting it. We are actually going to more sustainable way of reusing the water. Now, let's see the possibility of the water. If you look at approximately within the Netherlands, there's 350 billion liter of water we can actually extract just from the roof of the Netherlands, which is, by the way, 1/3 of all the water consumption in the Netherlands. So let's look at the solution. We kind of came up with a solution which is like a vertical smart grid. As you can see here, you can place these smart grids right across the wall, which is actually using the vertical space. The design is inspired by the nature itself. Like we took the beehives, and this is mathematically and the nature proven the best design which can be fitted in. With this solution, we mostly focused on 3 major areas. The first one is the stormwater management. What it is. Basically, when there's a lot of rain in a very short time, it overloads the drainage system. And the drainage system is being built it's so old that it's not capable of handling it. So it slows down the water because you can channelize the water and you can disperse it at your own accord. So we also wanted to stretch a little bit from the stormwater management, which means we wanted to reuse the rainwater. It was a little bit tricky because how are you going to do it? Well, we also came up with putting a filter so that you can reuse it for a purpose which might not be a drinking water, but of course for the watering the green, you can use it for washing. And the last one, but not the least, was the water storage. You can use the rainwater, these units, the HEX units, as a water storing units, which can also help in optimizing the use of water within the building. So if we look at the target groups, we basically divided our target groups into the 4 dimensions. And what is the most interesting for us was the municipality, because the Rotterdam municipality recently I read an article where they say that there is 1,500 euros to 50,000 euros they are actually providing for a water solution just like ours. So we see them a very potential customer there. So basically, let's talk more about our product. We have the 2 products, but with just the same shape, which is like Smart HEX, we call it. So the Smart HEX is basically a storing unit where you can store the water and you can channelize it as per your own accord, like with the smart wells. And the smart filters, which is you can filter the water. This is the dashboard where you can actually manage everything.
Time has elapsed.
Okay.
I must be strict. Maybe you
Yeah.
can squeeze it into the answers. Wouter, would you start?
Yeah.
No, you have to await the question.
What is your business model? And more specifically, is it, besides selling these products, is there also a service component to it or a broad monitoring component? And a sub-question is, do you know and did you talk to a company called Metropolder, who are based here in Blue City, who do rooftop water storage, smart water storage?
Yeah, so we actually, so let me go reverse-wise. So first I answered the Metropolder. Yeah, we spoke with them and we kind of aware of that they are also coming up with solutions somewhat like this, but it's still not very clear because so far they are into the filtering of the water through the rooftop. However, we are not only dependent on the rooftop storing of the system. We're actually wanted to use the vertical space, which is the least used space for storing the water. And most of the high-rise buildings are not willing to give you a horizontal space to store the water. Coming back to the question of providing the surface, by actually storing the water, and maintain, well, I couldn't really complete that part. We are making decisions based on what water we have and what's going to be the weather condition. And based on that, we can actually make intelligent decisions. So what do we need to do with the water? And if there's not enough rain, you can actually use those hexagons to store a normal water. Which means you can actually include the people around you to make decisions. Am I clear?
A bit, yeah.
Okay. So, okay, anyone else?
Yes. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, of course.
Thank you.
I've worked at the water company, at Evides actually.
Oh.
And be aware that the water system in the Netherlands is one of the most sustainable systems in the world. So to make it more sustainable, it's difficult. However, I think it's good to think about how you can slow down the water going into the river, and that makes, of course, the peaks. Have you thought of business cases that you specifically can use using rainwater, as it has quite specific, how do you say, within rainwater there's a lot, is not that much calcium, for example.
Yeah.
So that's a really specific specialty, let's say. So have you thought about solutions like that, or how we can really use the water in the buildings?
Yeah, I mean, I would really agree to your point, because with the Netherlands, water is really cheap and it seems to be very abundant. But when we were actually digging into the grey water treatment system, we figured out that it is super hard. But with the rainwater, the special thing was that you don't really need to treat it too much, and you can use it for a purpose which is not required a drinking water thing, which means you can channelize your water within the, if I should go back a little bit. Yeah. So with the walls, which cannot be possible, you can actually channelize it to every floor of the building. And then you can give it a common space area. They can use it for watering green. They can actually, if we put more filters, which we are thinking of putting UV filters and mechanical filters, we might be able to get clean drinking water as well.
Okay.
But that's a little bit ambitious probably for now.
I also had a question. Now I understand about why you need this vertical to be able to supply it to the individual houses. But you calculated the whole volume for the Netherlands. Did you also calculate the volume of water that you actually need to store in a high-rise? Because especially a high-rise has only very little roof. That's typical of high-rise compared to the houses.
Yeah, but like we kind of calculated about by taking average of 60, because the concept of high rise is a very varying, like some it can be 50 meters or 100 meters, and it can go beyond that. So yeah, we thought of it, and then we can actually place the hexagons based on your needs as well. Like, it's not like you all need all the hexagons in these things. You can place it the way you want it. And I have also thought of like, you can increase the amount of water you can collect by not putting it flat, but giving it a slant shape. That way you can collect more water. But yeah, we have a limit there.
Yeah, maybe you said I understand now why the surface is vertical, but I'm still curious. Can you explain a little bit more about the choice to make it into a facade? It could, for instance, if you look at the functionality, it could be like a big tank on the roof with ducts inside the building. And why the hexagon form? I heard you say that it's a very efficient form.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I didn't understand the specific goal for this form to this solution.
Okay, so you wanted to know first of all why we picked the the vertical
The vertical
space.
and the hexagon.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, we were actually discussing this a lot with the evidence. Like, okay, you can have the optimized water if you have a water storage, let's say on the top of the building, and then we came to know that people are not willing to put money, which is it's not a economically a valuable solution. So they think that instead of we putting the storage space, we can actually have more apartments which can be of some economic value. So they were not really willing to give us that much of space of having this thing. So that is why we use this vertical space.
Hazi Labs, thank you very much. Give it up for Team Water. Please welcome Team Organic Waste for their pitch and their responses to the critical questions of the jury. Organic waste.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe over there, distance.
All right, you may start now.
All right. Hi, everybody. We're Team Organic Waste. This is Ling, this is Maite, I'm Mara, and we have been looking into the issue of organic waste in high-rise building. Now, what's the actual problem with organic waste? Well, it makes up almost half of all the waste we have, yet we only compost about 15% of it. The problem with that is that we're not only wasting valuable nutrients, organic waste also produces a lot of methane if it's not processed and collected correctly. On the other hand, in high-rise buildings, we see low social cohesion as well as a lot of loneliness among the residents. Now, the situation in Rotterdam is that in 3 years, a system for organic waste separation is mandatory. And as of by now, there is a system for low-rise buildings, but it has not yet been applied to high-rise. Which is why we came up with Common Ground. So essentially, if you move into your apartment building in a high-rise, this is what you'll be welcomed with if this is your kitchen counter. Essentially, it's an explanation form, your organic waste kitchen bin, and a keychain for those of us who are not as online savvy. For those who are online savvy, the QR code will lead you to our app or our website where you can register your bin. Now, we based it on our app because it's the system, the heart of our system. We want to tackle the problem of organic waste at the source, which is the user ourselves. So we start with educating about what organic waste is and how to properly separate it. We then move on into educating the user about how to reduce and or reuse organic waste in the first place, for example, for further cooking or to make cleaning or personal care products. Next, we have the tracking part, which is kind of like a Fitbit situation for your organic waste, where we provide you some statistics about your waste behavior and how you compare to your neighbors. These statistics are then turned into points, which you can use at local businesses for discounts or product rewards. The social variable was very important for us, which is why we decided to dedicate a big chunk of our app to community-focused aspects. So in the last slide, you can see a lot of statistics about the building as a whole and a bit of a gamification for all the neighbors together. Like, for example, the Common Grounder of the month. You can see Rick just got 20 points because he separated so well. We also have a little event calendar in there and the option to share a meal with a neighbor. Now, of course, this is not all of our solution. This is how it kind of looks like behind the scenes. We start with the welcome package on the right. If your bin is full, you simply bring it to one of the collection points within the building where you will get your points. From the collection points, we bring it to the composting machine, which within 24 hours will provide high quality fertilizer, which can be used for community gardens or green walls within the building. Now, it was important for us that our solution is future-proof, which is why actually, our bin is supposed to have different departments, for example, to separate different organic waste streams, like bread. So we did that so we could provide a direct and clean separate organic waste stream for circular entrepreneurs and local pioneers. Now, our system is decentralized and takes the whole waste management process in-house. We did that because we wanted to eliminate the need for transport altogether. Ooh. There we go. We wanted to reward the user to motivate them to take part in an organic waste revolution because we know from ourselves rewards can truly help to change your own habits. From a social perspective, we try to take the mundane task of waste disposal, which you and I both have to do every day, to take it as a catalyst for community. As of our current calculations, we need an initial investment of 155K, which will break even in just about 2 years, considering that we're taking a price of about €50 per resident per year. This accounts for the scenario with one composting machine for 4 30-story high-rise buildings. So that makes up about 2,000 residents. As I just said, one composting machine caters about 2,000 residents, which means that our solution is actually easily applicable to different kind of neighborhoods and urban settings. So we could, for example, attach a ton of low-rise buildings, a couple of mid-rise buildings, and, as I said, about 4 high-rise buildings of 30 floors. Now, the reuse options of the Compose are wildfold. We suggest green walls or community gardens, or talking about separating bread, for example, a brewery within the building, which we think would add clear value to the neighborhood. So this is us. We all have different...
Time has elapsed, I'm afraid.
Thanks for your attention.
All right. We are going towards the 7 minutes. David, will you start?
Yes, I changed my question already a little bit because I think it's interesting that you also mentioned it's also applicable to not high-rise buildings. I think maybe the strength of your proposal is not so much using it in high-rise, but the whole system that creates like a small community at the one hand and stimulates and inspires people to live well and compost to make that circular. But maybe is there a specific part in your proposal that has to do with high-rise that really fits into the subject of high-rise buildings?
Yeah, so we had a long way of taking loops for our solution. But we eventually settled on this one because we believe that Rotterdam needs a solution that's flexible and that it's fast to implement. So with the composting machine that we chose, you actually just have to put it into one building. So you need one small storage room where you can fit it, and yet it can cater to 3 other buildings next to it. So it has like, we wanted to have, the least spatial impact as we could get. Now, in a perfect scenario, our solution would be implemented in a building that doesn't exist yet, where, this was one of the situations where we thought about collaborating with another group. They had an idea of creating neighborhoods within the building, and that's where we would provide compost for green walls or whatever communal part there will be within the building. Another part is, I guess, the collection points. We plan to spread collection points throughout the building, like, for example, every 3rd floor, so that every resident who needs to bring their organic waste away only has to go up max 1 floor up or down, instead of going to the very bottom of the building like you would do with your regular waste.
It was part of your investigation finding out how big a space for this machine should be? Or is that part of the investigation that will hopefully for you start after today?
Actually, the nice part about it is, of course, the space in a high-rise building is very limited. So you want it to be a little bit neutral on that. And since we use a composting machine, it breaks down the volume of the organic waste. So you don't need a lot of space because of this solution. It breaks down until 85% of the original size of the organic waste. So it's small space needed.
So you mean the separate houses have need less space for their compost, and you compensate that by bringing it all to a place where they condense it already for you on the...
Well, I think an important part about the solution was that it needed to be neutral on space. So that's why we were looking for a solution where the waste wouldn't have to take a lot of space to store it, because otherwise you will have to change the entire infrastructure or go underground, and it's not necessary now.
Have you already made plans to really start a business? And have you validated this solution with some potential clients already who...
Yeah, so we actually plan to make a survey and to test it with some high-rise buildings in Rotterdam. However, unfortunately, due to Corona, we didn't get as far in the testing process as we wish we would have been.
Yeah, and we've actually been working closely with Joep over there from the municipality of Rotterdam, and that's how we decided to go with this, because he was concerned with scalability, so we had to make sure that it's really easy to manipulate for every scenario. Yeah.
What is the labor involved in this? How many people would you need to maintain the system?
We included one FTE labor, like a green concierge we call it, which is a concierge that can help bring the organic waste to the composting machine and can help maintain the garden that we want to connect. And of course, project labor we included for this.
Per how many houses?
I included 2 FTE, so it could be the 4 of us part-time. Yeah.
And I guess it's important to mention here that we're also thinking of starting this as a piloting system first. So we're looking at one building, say 30 stories with 600 residents. So this is the scenario that we've based our calculations on.
So when I looked at your plan, it looked amazing. Thank you very much also for the great presentation, but really well done. What I was thinking is, is the... sorry, I forgot my question. Oh yeah, the amount of money that you ask per hire, it is quite high in the sense that we have in Rotterdam Zuid many people who are living on 50 euros for maybe a week or 2 weeks for food. So it's really difficult, like, to balance that amount of money to a solution like this.
I can see your point. The thing is that the residents pay waste tax per year. I think it's about 245 if you're one resident household, let's say. So it would be logical that part of that tax would be used for a system for the waste, because the waste is, how can I say, a task of the municipality. So it's not like an extra additional cost that they would have to pay. It should be part of the...
Yeah.
And I guess the final price per person per year also kind of depends on the deals that we would get with local businesses, whether we can make an ad deal out of it, and whether eventually in the future we would be able to sell separate organic waste streams to other businesses, which I guess would have another impact on the final price.
Only 6 seconds, maybe final words? 5?
What obstacles do you see?
And time has elapsed. No time for the obstacles. Thank you very much, Team Organic Waste.
Thank you.
And may I introduce the next team to you, which is Healthy Homes. Let's wait for the presentation and the team. Please go ahead. Time is counting.
Hello, everyone. We are Team Common Grounds with an S, and my name is, or we're super excited to pitch our product to you. My name is Chris, this is Ronald, and that's Julietta, and our fourth team member, Dennis, is home, feeling a little ill, but he's with us in spirit and via live stream. So, at the very start of the challenge, we talked to lots of residents because we were asked to design, let's back up a little, healthy homes in high-rises. And we asked them, what does a healthy home mean? And in addition to eating well and exercising regularly, actually the more common response was the relationships that residents have with their neighbors. One story we heard was from a resident who had a New Year's resolution, and he really wanted to take the stairs more often. But it was just himself, and he just could not make himself do it. So he mentioned it to one of his neighbors, and their neighbor was like, that is such a great idea, let's do this together. And the more they started taking the stairs together, the more other neighbors also started taking the stairs together. So I think this is a great example of how having great social cohesion in an apartment building can create all these great, healthy habits. However, the problem is that there is a great lack of social cohesion in apartment buildings. And on top of that, the air quality also isn't great. And then there are, of course, the circular goals that Rotterdam has as a municipality. Let's start with solving the air quality problem. Again, we did a lot of research, and we came across a TED Talk that mentioned 3 plants. If you lived in a bottle with a cap on it, you could literally have these 3 plants in the bottle, and you would survive. You'd have enough oxygen. So we were thinking, okay, we can put all these plants in an apartment building, but who is actually going to take care of the plants? Similar to taking the stairs, it's really hard to take care of all these plants if you're just one resident. But if you have lots of other residents together, it becomes a lot easier to take care of these plants, and it also becomes a lot more fun. So how might we improve air quality, increase social cohesion, while also raising awareness around circularity? By building common grounds with circular and modular, building blocks like this baby. For residents. This one's made from mycelium, lots of different prototypes, tested lots of materials, but mycelium is great because it's regenerative. You can grow it yourself. We grew this one. We started last week. We poured mycelium with a little bit of flour, lots of hemp, water into a mold. You can pour it into whatever mold you want. It'll grow, and then mycelium is like the root network of the fungi that's in there. And you have your building block. And you can use it for growing plants in it, but you don't have to put plants in it. You can also put like wine in it. Also great for social cohesion. And then use cases for this. One could be functional common spaces like the staircase you saw earlier, especially because the wall here is not weight bearing, so we can stack them here. They can be in intentional common spaces. This is an apartment building, literally 2 blocks over, where the owner decided to put plant pots with fake plants, which is such a shame because no clean air and also no great social cohesion because people don't really like being in the space. Third use case is private homes. You can stack them, they're modular, but you don't have to. You can just put one in your windowsill and grow basil. And wrapping it all up, we will grow the blocks with regenerative ingredients like mycelium that also removes carbon from the atmosphere. When it's being used, it improves air quality, social cohesion, and on top of that also it's great for acoustics and insulation in the building. And after use, of course, we're going to do whatever we can to reuse it, repair it. But if that's not possible anymore, we can recycle it to make other blocks of other shapes in other buildings. So on that note, if you have a building that needs better air quality or more social cohesion, let's talk afterwards because we would love to involve you in the next steps of exploring other shapes. And yeah, just keep this going. Thank you.
Wonderful timing. 7 minutes for the jury, questions and your answers. David, will you start?
Yeah, I was wondering if you also showed images of plants being in like a staircase, like the former one. So I'm searching a little bit for the specifics about this solution. Is it the box? Is it the plant? Is it the whole the whole product? And then did you? So it's like two questions in one. Did you incorporate or did you think about having the light that you need to actually grow these plants and the watering system? Did you think about that, or is that like should that be provided by another party?
Well, the water, we're gonna do it with the people, the residents. We did a lot of research about how can we involve the residents and how can we do it with some workshops or meetings and really make them enthusiastic to give the plants water. And at the other side, yes, the staircase is really difficult with lighting. We looked at a lot of possibilities, but I think the most easy one for now is like putting in special light bulbs, or not that special, but like with kind of light that the plants can live off.
There's lots of vertical farms that are using LED lights. And I think the most energy efficient are the blue ones, but so
yeah, no,
we
of
could
course, there are a lot of solutions like that, but,
Yeah.
but do you see it as part of your product to have this whole package together, or is your product the box with a certain plant in it? And do you need to have combinations and collaborations with other parties to make it a solution that's ready-made and usable?
Well, we definitely, we definitely want to do the social part with it. It's really important for us. So it's like the block and the social part. But I also think that you never can do something alone. And by working together and sharing your ideas with people, that we can accomplish what we want. I also think like a circular economy doesn't go on like who has the product and who can make the most omset out of it, but more like sharing and together come to the best solution.
Do the people in the high-rise make the blocks themselves or together?
Can take it. So I think the idea will be that at the beginning we will do it, making the blocks. But I think from our own experience, we never made it, and it's pretty easy, a straightforward process. So we can also imagine having a grow yourself kit, and people can customize it. I think it's a very important part of our product that people can use in many different ways. So you just don't need to put plants, you can do whatever you want. Maybe you don't like this shape, you want another shape, and I think in time we will develop more and research more how to get consumers' needs. Yeah.
And one last question, is it water resistant? So when you water plants...
Sure, yeah.
Oh.
Which way should I hold the mic?
No.
Close to your mouth. Or not.
So is the pot water resistant?
Yes, actually we have a biosealer, so you can put it, you can apply it to the finished block when it's baked, and it will make it water resistant. And also a great source of inspiration for us was Biom. It was called, yes, they made a building structure in the Netherlands which was placed outside. So that was a great proof for us that this product can be placed both indoors and outdoors, and it's very durable, so it's possible, yeah.
Okay.
One block costs 30 euros if you want to buy it. Or let's say a house of 100 square meters. How many blocks would you need to have a good positive benefit from this?
Well, that is something that we're gonna research in the future. So we didn't actually research that. We did a lot of research about the plants, but not how many plants we can actually put in one block and how much blocks we need. So.
I don't really know if it's a question, but more of an observation, but I'm curious about your opinion on this. I mean, I think your idea is great, and I would want every building and with people in it to do these kind of things, but why would they need you to make an agreement amongst each other to put plants in the building and water them together? I don't see how you are going to change that.
So I think because they're modular and because they can be used for things other than plants, it doesn't have to be this shape and it doesn't have to be for plants. I think part of our service, which Giulietta mentioned earlier also, we would go in and we would together with the residents decide how many do you want, how do you want to stack them, what do you want to use them for. So it's not like we don't want to force a solution on them, but it's more like facilitating the solution.
If I can add to that, like we also did some research, so some surveys with the residents, and what we noticed is that people are really interested in getting more involved in communal activities in their buildings. So that was citizens from both Rotterdam and other cities. So it seems like it's a common perception to be involved in this kind of activity, and it could be interesting to actually have it on practice. Yeah.
So what is then the thing that they're buying from you? It's not these blocks, but it's actually you and your advice and your enthusiasm to hire you to get more communal feeling in the building. Is that then the right conclusion, maybe?
So we saw at a lot of co-housing projects and like communal projects that movers and shakers are really important. Like people who like be enthusiastic and support everyone and listen to people. They are really important to.
Thank you very much
for the success.
Thanks.
Hannes Labs, Team Healthy Home. And for the last team presentation, we go to Team Sewage. All right, 5 minutes are counting. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So on the place where we are gathered today, there used to be a little river called the Rotte. And this was a very typical pre-industrial ecosystem of the Netherlands, a wetland. So wetlands are very important ecosystems. They offer many ecosystem services, and they are also a very important place for biodiversity. So we had many of these in the Netherlands. Then the Netherlands, the industrialization came, and unfortunately we wanted to use this space for agriculture and for industry. This was very successful, but it did have very negative effects on our water quality. So what we want to do, we have developed a product, Muras. And in Muras is a circular wastewater solution or sewage treatment solution that is based in ecosystem level biomimicry. And we want to use some of these ecosystem services for ourselves to essentially filter water. So in wetlands, there is contaminant removal. There are many mechanisms that work together in interaction between soil, between the roots, and between the microorganisms within the soil. And they do this through different mechanisms. They are able to remove pretty much every pollutant. So to apply this to a high-rise building, there were certain challenges that we had to overcome. Mainly, normally, the constructed wetlands or halophyta filters require a lot of space. We wanted to make this vertical. In order to make this work, we had to address the weight and the size of the plants, and we have made some developments there. So we developed or designed modular planters, which are very lightweight, and they're also weight-bearing. So they are able to bear the weight of the planter on top of it, and they can self-irrigate. We also selected many different native plants in the Netherlands that are small and that are able to filter water specifically well. So we have a database of that. And then we had to prove that with our lightweight substrates, that it could also filter water in the same way that gravel and sand that are normally used, which are very heavy, can do. So we had to prove this. This has not been done yet. So we found that Leica and Coco Core are quite promising in this extent. We've developed a prototype for it. These are the results. We wanted to add biochar as well, except for Corona got kind of in the way, but there is a large potential. We are still playing with the specifics. So we need to have some supporting infrastructure in order to make the living wall system work. We will have to separate the nutrient-rich parts of the waste stream from the parts of the waste stream that have a high infection risk. We will do this through USDs. Then we will sanitize the water further by storage according to the World Health Organization standards. And then it will pass through the wall, and after that it will be able to be reused in the building for non-potable purposes. Now, why is this interesting? Well, first of all, we are able to reduce the nitrogen footprint of buildings a lot. And this is a big thing in the Netherlands right now. We have a nitrogen problem, and we think that giving this incentive for construction companies can be interesting. Also, we will function as a carbon sink. On top of that, there's a minimal space requirement compared to traditional constructed wetlands. And it fits in with current trends in the sense that there are a lot of living walls popping up all over the Netherlands and all over the world. We quantified the environmental benefits. So there are many benefits. It also increases biodiversity, and it is able to reuse the water. As for our business side, we will function as a back-to-back, or like a business-to-business, B2B. And we will have like the actual design of the living wall systems. And we will also operate the maintenance for a constant cash flow. We quantified the revenue and the costs and the material costs. And yeah, we believe that Muras can be a peace offering to the water in internal battle for land in the foremost in Dutch innovation.
Thank you very much. Simone, will you start?
Yes. So, for example, soap is in the water that you're cleaning, and of course, the plants are not used to that. How do they or do you cope with stuff like that?
With the soap?
Yeah.
So there is certain soaps are able to be filtered out by the water. We will need to have some communication with the residents of the building that will actually be using it, and we will need to have some system to inform them about not to use strong bleach. But there is quite a strong buffer within the system that is able to filter out the soap.
Okay, and the people you are working with are from all regions of the world, are not always the people who can afford biological soaps, for example, or different. So, is there something that you are going to cooperate with them, or is it just the technology that you provide?
Well, the product we provide is the design of the systems. We are also able to offer through the reduction of water use, and that the people that have to pay for these detergents or soaps, they will also have economic benefits themselves by having a lower water bill, for example. We don't have a specific we're not providing the detergent or the soap.
No. Okay, thank you.
I have a question maybe for one of the others. Can you tell me something about your team and how diverse that is, and what specialties you have, and who does what, and what your plans are?
Okay, so me and Lydia are both environmental scientists. So our specialty came from researching the plants and also the environmental benefits that come with the system. Anna here is a chemist, so she did most of the chemical research, and the water you see over there is most of the testing that Anna has done. And Gijs has a broad background, but is focused mostly on the business side.
And you have any plans of actually starting a business? Have you talked about that? And who is on and who is not?
I definitely want to start a business, and I think we all feel this way. We have discussed it, but today's feedback will play a role in that. If people see potential in this, then we want to continue this. And of course, the process will be, we will have to scale up our pilots. We have now made a relatively small prototype, but our product is very scalable because it is modular, and the price will grow evenly as well. So we are able to develop larger and larger pilots.
All right, thanks.
Is it considered a replacement system, or is it additional to the normal sewage? That's question one. The second is, how many do you need per household?
Anyone else want to answer this?
It's supposed to be an additional system to the sewage system that it's already built in every city. But the benefits that this would provide is to reduce enormously the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus, and also the amount of organic matter in the water. And this will provide also benefits for the sewage company, because this means that they can reduce the treatments that they have to operate on the water, and this will be also translatable in economic benefits for the sewage company.
And how many units do you need per dwelling to completely process all the waste?
So you need about 3 square meters per resident.
Okay.
So that equates to approximately 6 planters.
Thank you.
How far are you in the specifics of the composition of the soil? Because the drawings looked quite specific, but you also mentioned that you were testing different ground combinations. Mm-hmm. So is that part of the investigation, or how far and specific are you already in that?
In the planter design specifically?
Sorry?
In the planter design specifically, or in the substrates?
In the substrates.
Yeah, so we have found many different substrates with the potential. We were in touch with many different companies that wanted to provide these for us to test. Unfortunately, because of the corona situation, many of the packages got delayed. So in the end, we weren't able to test them all. But in terms of the substrates, we do have like a database of certain promising things. We also know that why the current one wasn't quite as efficient as the sand, and why we want to add biochar. So it is definitely something we're still testing, but it is quite far in the process.
That's not like engineered already by other parties. It's something you, for a scale like this, you have to, that will be part of starting the investigation maybe, or?
Yeah, so like the LICA is very common in other water systems, but normally in traditional wetlands, it's not a priority to make it lightweight. So we had to really do the research on what is lightweight, but can still provide these same benefits.
Time for one more question.
Well, I was actually curious, like, Nick Ivans from Schieland is here.
Nick Ivans.
So is it really important for you guys that there is less plants waste in the water of?
Excuse me, questions only go to the team,
oh, sorry.
not to anybody else. And there's only 18 seconds left.
I will answer this for Nick. Nick told us that ultimately the water board is looking for a solution that just uses sewage in a more efficient way. But at the same time, the water board and the water treatment plant do benefit from a waste stream that is more concentrated.
Yeah.
And because we are able to use a lot of the gray water, it will have more nutrients.
Time has elapsed. Thank you very much. Give it up for Team Sewage. All right. I would like you to stay here during the deliberation of the jury, and a hand for the jury who have asked so many questions. Good one, I hope. So please find your way to the jury deliberation room, dear jury, and about 4 o'clock, hopefully, please be back with the result. And for the rest, I would like to ask you to stay here. We will have drinks afterwards, somewhere else, I will tell you later. But for now, please stay here and wait for the wisdom of the jury to go away, develop, and come back. And here comes the jury. An applause would be in order, I would say so. All right. So I will shortly give you the mic. But there are two prizes. One is this wonderful bottle of good quality champagne, and some glasses are already next to it, which is nice. But most importantly is a 3-month package of use of Blue City. They are welcome here to work out or to elaborate on their idea and to go further, the winning team, as well as receive support. So that is the prize. Have you reached a verdict? So Simone, may I ask you to give some comments on each of the teams, then to name a runner-up, and then finally, if you're all very eager, for you to declare the winning team, to mention who it is. Please go ahead.
Well, first of all, I thank everybody and all the participants to thank you so much for your hard work, and don't underestimate how important this project will be and is to us, as it's really important that the multidisciplinarity of your teams showed off. It's really amazing, and what we saw, it was really amazing how much social cohesion, how important that was in all of your solutions, even though there wasn't a criterion or a KPI or whatever. Furthermore, we would like to say to you all, be an entrepreneur, even though you will maybe work at a company, but stay entrepreneurial, make your own impact, and be you. So that's for the first part. Let's kick off with future proof. I think your analysis and how you made the whole scoping and saw all the important themes and got all the numbers right was really was really good. Thank you for that. What we also saw is that you doubled the material that is going into the building. So that was something we didn't like that much, and it's also difficult to really make sure that all the conditions are set right in the buildings, and the so that were some points we were also considering. The second project is water. So it was a great presentation. Thank you very much. It made sure that people in their surroundings are aware of the water that is coming out of the sky. So maybe you could have used that a bit more, that it was a really great project to raise awareness. So common ground. Common ground also great on your social cohesion, how you got really into the project with the people, and how you tested all the different blocks. Thank you very much for that. For next time, make sure that the core of your product is very clear. As bottom line, it's also about the process. So you could have enlightened that a bit more. Common grounds. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong person. So the enthusiasm of the presentation was really amazing. So the green as a vehicle to get the... Sorry, I messed up because I looked at you for common ground, and the people from common ground. So yeah, there. So common ground, the knowledge that you have. So the great presentation, the whole look and feel of the app was really great, and also how you got your business plan. However, the costs are something to consider, and maybe a part of your total concept could work as well. And one thing to consider, like the whole sewage system is now, in sense of energy use, quite optimal. And when you introduce decentralized sewage systems, it might use a lot more energy than it used to. So sorry for the... and so common grounds, I already told you, so try to make it a bit more focused on the core of your project. And then the last one, Muras. So a great new product, so where are you guys there? A great new concept. All the architects were willing to use it in the future, so that's a really positive thing. And for me, as also a water specialist, make sure that you are gonna clean the water good, as water in the end is the most important medicine. As before the water cleanage, the people would die a lot earlier due to all the infections. So that was a great thing, and make sure that the maintenance that is incorporated into your product. So, for example, when you have plants that are dying, or when you need to do maintenance, make sure that you know how to work with that. So I think I mentioned all the elements. Co-jury members, did I forget anything to mention or to say? No? Well, can I have a brrrrum?
Where's the runner-up?
So the runner-up is Common Ground with a D, so the app. So congratulations. And due to the fact that it's really like a very good communicative tool, I could also introduce you to some of the incubators in Amsterdam called Rockstart, and maybe it works out with them also to participate in their project or in their ecosystem. And of course, you will be helped here as well. And the winner, even more ruffle. Well, guys, thank you so much for your great work. The winners are Muras.
Muras, please come forward. Please come forward. Team. So Team Sewage won, Team Muras. Maybe I present it first to you, then you can give it to the winner. We can even sign it if you want. It's the lease to use Blue Cities for the coming 3 months. There's a pen. So you never know what you sign, but you can do it anyway.
I will read it first. Where do I sign?
All right. There we go.
Woo!
Congratulations. Many congratulations. All right, any words by the winner? Can I have a mic? I'm not allowed to touch it, but I just disinfected my hands, so. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you, jury, and thank you, Nick, as well, for your great help, and Blue City as well for supporting us. And well, I feel very excited about continuing this.
Yeah, of course. Do the others? Yes.
Yeah, I hope to make this a reality and like one day see this on the facade of a building. That's really something I feel strongly about. So I hope it will work out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give it up for Team Muras, Team Switch. They won this 8th circular challenge on high-rise, and a good winner. But I would like to thank all of the other teams to be here and work so very hard, because, well, we only have a group of winners, I would say, especially in these difficult times. I would like to thank Rick Winsemius and Peter De Stefano for all the work they did on organizing and putting together all the stakeholders. Thanks, Blue City, and the team that has done all the technical equipment. A warm hand to them, and thank you for being here, people on the live stream, and thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thank you for the companies working together, and we will see you the next round. Again, that was Circular Challenge number 8, High Rise. Thank you.